Okay, hi everybody. Happy Aloha Wednesday. Hope you are well. Welcome and aloha to the AAF Hawaiʻi education series called Two Scoops. My name is Billy V. Glad to be your host for today. We'll take you on the journey together. Each month, AAF Hawaiʻi's Two Scoops series will spotlight a different industry leader who will share life and career experiences as well as advice and takeaways learned along the way. To simplify things today, the chat is moderated, so we encourage you, if you have any questions, comments, drop them in the drop them in the chat, and we'll pick them up and we'll use those coming up in the Q&A portion of the program. Before we begin, want to share an upcoming event that you and your friends, your colleagues, or maybe yourself, maybe you want to be a part of. Get ready, Get ready, AAF Hawaiʻi's Ad Mania is back in person. Time to gather your most competitive ad nerd collages and form your team for the ultimate ad trivia battle. That's going to be Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, Dave & Buster's, 6 p.m. The event time is actually 6:30 to about 8:30. Free food and fun. Bring your friends, your coworkers, and your fellow club members. You can sign up as a team, up to 8 people, or sign up individually. And of course, our AAF Hawaiʻi crew will help you assemble your team. You can visit aafhawaii.com or AAF Hawaiʻi on Facebook and Instagram for the links. Today, we're going to get started. We are pleased to introduce our guest. He joined Pacific Media Group as their Chief Revenue Officer back in March of 2020. In this role, Joshua collaborates with the company's radio station group and digital division to create and manage go-to-market strategies that deliver on the unparalleled reach that the company offers its clients. He also serves as the regional VP, Vice President, General Manager for the company's Oahu, Kauai, and Hawaii Island radio clusters. He is a 30-year media industry executive, experience managing and operating broadcast media companies, radio stations, play-by-play sports networks, digital and interactive media campaigns, event marketing, sponsorship sales in media markets of all sizes from small to top 10 markets. Among several management positions prior to joining Pacific Media Group, Joshua has served as the Chief Operating Officer for Laser Broadcasting Corporation, a 42-station radio group in California and Nevada, Executive Vice President of Casa Media Partners and their 11 stations in 5 Western cities, and VP of Sales for the 8-station New Orleans operation of iHeartMedia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Joshua Mednick. Joshua, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Billy.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Is there anything that I missed in my introduction of you?
Married, 2 children, both of whom moved to Hawaii prior to me getting here. As a matter of fact, as my contract was coming to an end at Laser Media in California, I happened to notice that there was an opening here in Honolulu, and my kids had moved here about 7 years prior to that. And so the opportunity to chase the kids out to Hawaii seemed like too good to be true. And clearly, Pacific Media Group has a terrible background check system, and they hired me, and here I am.
Awesome. Your bio says that you are a 30-year veteran of broadcast media and radio companies. Was this something that you wanted to do as a child, work in radio? If not, what was your dream job at the time?
Well, that was an awful long time ago when I was a kid, so I'm not entirely sure I would remember what I wanted to be. It was probably a fireman or a policeman or something like that at the time. As I grew older, I thought the coolest job in the world would be the host of Monday Night Football. I'd like to be the play-by-play guy for Monday Night Football, because I think it would be fantastic to be flown around the United States, to go to all these cool stadiums, to be wined and dined in all these cities, and basically get to watch football for a living. That can't be bad.
Did you practice doing play-by-play in the house and stuff like that?
I think all of you can hear my voice and you can see me, so you know that that was probably not in the cards for me. I did go to UCLA on a communications major. I was always interested in communications as a medium, and certainly felt like that would be my career at some point. So it is what I went to school to do, I guess is the best way to say it.
Where did you get your start in radio?
in Seattle, Washington, at a country radio station called KRPM Radio in 1985.
What kind of format was it?
All country, country AM and FM.
Did it matter the format? Is it just you wanted to work in radio, or were you specifically wanting to work for country music at the time?
Oh, no. I was kind of format agnostic, I guess is the right way to say it. It really didn't matter to me where I was. My father was in the radio business for a number of years in Southern California. I wanted to get out of Southern California and forge my own path. So I took a job in Seattle radio, and it really didn't matter what type of format it was.
How did you like that first job?
It was amazing. And I was really fortunate to be paired with a gentleman who's kind of on my board of directors of mentors over the years. And I still keep in touch with the CEO of that company and with the guy who originally hired me, both of whom I consider to be very dear friends. So it was really, I think, life-changing in a lot of ways, because it afforded me the opportunity to learn from people that had souls and really cared about their people. And I think that's translated well over the years.
From managing and operating broadcast media companies or radio stations, play-by-play, as you mentioned, digital and interactive media campaigns, event marketing, sponsorship shells. Is there one that you enjoy the most of these?
So the tragedy of most businesses is the higher up the food chain you get, the less of the things that you love to do that you actually get to do. I would say that probably 60% of my time now, I'm an accountant and an attorney. I read a lot of contracts. I do a lot of negotiations. I spend a lot of time worrying about both the revenue and the expenses of the operations that I run. And the things that I love to do, helping our clients and helping our people, I probably don't get to do as much of it as I truly would like if all of my time was my choice.
You mentioned country music a little bit earlier. What is your favorite music to listen to and why?
So here's the weird part. I'm kind of format agnostic as well. About 20 years of my career has been in Hispanic targeted media, Spanish language radio and television. And so yo hablo español que sí perfectamente. My Spanish is really good for a gringo. And I've spent a lot of time focused on that. And there are some brilliant artists that perform music in Spanish, artists that you probably wouldn't have heard of. And you can see behind me, I have the poster from a Shakira concert that I was fortunate enough to be the official radio station presenter for that concert. And this was one of her very first United States appearances at the time. She spoke no English. She was still at that point in her career where she was playing guitar and singing on stage, as opposed to the type of large production shows that you would see. And I got a chance to hang out with her backstage and chat with her a little bit on her arrival in Houston, Texas. And one of the most fascinating things about the conversation, despite the fact that she spoke almost no English, was she was surprised that people would even show up to see her perform. And now, I mean, she's obviously a global superstar. So I really have an affinity for almost all types of music.
That's amazing. Most of the people, let me go back a little bit. So you lived in the mainland. You eventually moved to Hawaii. How many years did you spend working in the continental United States?
So I started my career in Seattle in 1985. I've moved all over the country. I've been as far northwest as Seattle, Washington, and as far southeast as Tampa, Florida, and literally everywhere you can imagine in between, in Texas, in Nevada, and all over the place, Kansas City, New Orleans. I've been around. I believe a career in the media is probably not true for people like you. And in a setting like Hawaii, I think there's a sizable amount of people that have been able to be here and stay here for a long time. And I envy that very greatly, because you get to build roots in a place that I think, makes you closer to everybody in the community. But on the mainland, being in the media industry is kind of like being in the military. I mean, you move a lot. And when I was young and single, it was fun, because every move was a new adventure. And I moved around for a lot of the companies that I worked for, because I'm like, hey, I'll go, send me. And now that I'm older and married, it's a little bit more of a project to move. So the fact that we were able to pull up roots in California and come here where the kids are was truly a blessing.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Joshua Mednick, who's the Chief Revenue Officer of Pacific Media Group, who's worked in the continental United States. So you move from there to Hawaii. What brought you to our islands?
My kids. Bottom line, my kids were here. When my wife and I left New Orleans and came back to Southern California, and I was running Casa Media and then ultimately Laser Broadcasting, as we had worked so hard to get back to California because my youngest was still living with us and my oldest was living in Sacramento, we were finally all in the same state. And I thought how much fun it would be to have 4th of July together and backyard barbecues and hang out on the weekends and stuff like that. And we started to do that. And about 6 months after we moved to California, my oldest son got a job offer here in Honolulu. And he called me and he said, should I take the job? And I'm like, not only should you take the job, I'll go with you. I mean, how bad could it be, right? Leaving the continental United States and moving to Hawaii. And he, at the time, was in his late 20s and single. And, this was like a dream. So I said, go do it, right? So he leaves. And then within 2 weeks, he's calling my youngest son, who had just turned 19, saying, you have to move out here. The people are amazing. The beaches, the lifestyle, the weather, come out. So my youngest son leaves us and moves in with my oldest son. They become roommates here. And now my wife and I are sitting in Southern California going, well, that didn't work out the way we planned. And on a visit here for my wife to run the Honolulu Marathon, I think in 2017, we just came out here and fell in love with the place. And like I said, when my contract was coming to an end at Laser, it was around about the time that the general manager here in Honolulu was announcing his retirement on LinkedIn. And I reached out to him instantly and said, I have a real reason to want to move to Hawaii. I'd love to get close to my kids again. And I was very, very fortunate to be hired here.
Broadcast media and radio in particular has seen a lot of change over the past 30 years. What's the biggest challenge that you see facing this industry today?
Well, okay, so in a global sense, the radio industry, the biggest problem that we have is perception. We remain the largest reach medium in the United States, regardless of state. We deliver 8 out of every 10 people who live in America. I think the number that I saw a couple of days ago was 86% of all American residents listen to radio at least once a week. And it's significantly more important in areas like ours because of the geography of our state. It's a really interesting situation because of the way we are separated by bodies of water, yet we're all one state. And I think that radio delivers a hyper-local message to the communities on the neighbor islands and to Honolulu that is unmatchable by any other medium. And it's really important that the people that work with us understand that we can provide some extraordinary support for their marketing and media campaigns that they probably don't pay attention to in real life. And I can tell you that a very recent study on people's perception of radio has them believing things like the audience for Pandora and Spotify must be the equal of radio. And literally, radio's audience is 15 to 20 times the size of any of those streaming services. And people are sitting at home now because they're not coming into the office. And you can get on the H1 and I can tell you that that's not true. There's a lot of things going on that I think people just, they don't necessarily know the truth about our medium. And it's something that all of us that work in the industry should be screaming from the rooftop.
So what is Pacific Media Group specifically doing to stay ahead of these challenges, these changes, these perceptions?
Well, I think the most important thing that Pacific Media Group has done as a company, and this is not my doing at all, I think you have to look to our CEO, Chuck Bergson, and his commitment to this company and to the islands that we serve. He's made an enormous investment in people. And we own 20 radio stations. We operate 21 across the state. We're the only statewide audio platform in Hawaii. We own stations on all 4 major islands. And every radio station we have on every island has live local personalities, people who are literally broadcasting to the communities that they serve, and they live in that community. And I think that there are so many radio stations now that have syndicated and voice tracked and outsourced their content to people who oftentimes never set foot in our state. And I think that's extraordinarily disrespectful to the community and to the people that we serve. And one of the things that we adopted when I first got here, because I found it so meaningful, we use this phrase internally, and I don't know that it has any real external value, but we use this phrase internally a lot. And the phrase is, we're here for you because we're here with you. And the truth is that we are here on island with you every day, and not just here on Oahu, but on Kauai and Maui and Hawaii Island. And I think that there's something to be said for that kind of community involvement, and certainly the investment we've made in the people to serve the folks that we talk to every day. And you are just as likely to run into Ron Wiley at the grocery store as you are to run into Michael T at an event. And I think those things are really cool, because you want the people that wake you up every morning, that talk to you during the day, that help you on your drive home, or that keep you a companion on the weekend, to be experiencing the weather you're experiencing, and the price of gasoline, and the traffic on the H1, and all of the other stuff that you're going through. And I think it's somewhat disingenuous when you have people talk about, hey, it's great weather here in Hawaii today, and they're sitting in a studio in Wisconsin recording that, or in Lake Tahoe, California, or Portland, Oregon. I don't believe that's truly honest with the audience. And I think there's something to be said for what our company has done in that arena.
I want to bring the focus back to you for a couple of moments. What's the biggest lesson that you have learned in your position?
So my very first job, not being a radio station employee, meaning I was now a corporate guy, right, was for Casa Media Partners, when I was going there to be their executive vice president, and I wasn't going to be located in any of the radio stations. I was truly a corporate guy. And I actually called a gentleman named Gary Stone. He was the CEO, president and COO of Univision Communications, of our radio group, when I worked for Univision Radio. And I asked him, because when he was my COO, when he was my boss, and he was clearly not a radio station guy, he made me feel like the most important radio station in the company, even though I knew I clearly wasn't, right? And I think when I went around and met all the other managers that were in that company, and I talked to them, he had made every one of them feel the way he made me feel, that I was the single most important thing he was focused on at the time, that I had his 100% attention, and that my success was critical to him and the company, even though the radio stations that I ran in Las Vegas were a lemonade stand compared to our New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas offices. I mean, we were fun to play with, but we were not paying the bills of that company. And he made me feel like our radio stations were critical to the success of the company, that anything he could do to help me, he was clearly willing to do. And he was gracious enough to have lunch with me prior to my accepting the job at Casa, and give me some advice on how to make people feel. And now that I'm sitting in this role here, where I'm on island here on Oahu, but I work with all of the employees and team members in Ohana across all of our radio stations in the state. I think the most important lesson that I've learned in all of this is it's really important to be present for the people that you work with. And my job is to make their jobs easier. And as long as I can do that, I'm probably doing the right thing. My success is not my success. My success is the success of the people that I work with. I can't do the morning show on any of the radio stations. I don't process the commercial logs. I don't coordinate the events. I don't schedule the music. I mean, all of these things that I don't do, right? I need them to be great at their job so that my job is ultimately performing well. And really, at the end of the day, their success is my success. So as long as I'm focused on making their job easier, then my job is pretty simple.
If you were to give advice to other people, would you give that kind of advice, that should be the role that they do no matter what the occupation is?
Without a doubt. I think that leadership is somewhat of a privilege. I think you can have a tremendous amount of authority and absolutely no power in your organization. And the authority comes from the concept that people are willing voluntarily to follow your systems and your plans and your vision for the company. And that you earn that respect and that trust by the way you treat people. And I believe that if you look at an organizational chart, and there are zillions of examples of this, your name ends up on the top of the chart when it really should end up on the bottom. My job is customer service to every single person in this company, including Chuck, our CEO. And my one role is to make sure that everybody's job is as easy as is humanly possible to be successful at, because if they make their goals, then I make mine by default.
Talking story with Joshua Mednick, who's the Chief Revenue Officer for the Pacific Media Group. If you have questions and you're listening to this and a question pops up because of something Joshua said, you can always leave your questions in the chat, and we will pick those up when it's time to do that in that section coming up in just a little bit. What is the biggest risk you've taken in your career?
Probably starting my job as the general sales manager for a Spanish language radio station in San Antonio, Texas. I was working for a company at the time, and an old boss of mine called, and he had joined a new company called TK Communications, working for a guy named John Tenaglia. He was the T in TK. And he said, hey, we have openings in our company, and I'd really love for you to come work with me again. And even though we won't be working in the same building, I think it'll be fun. So I said, great. So he introduced me to John Tenaglia, the CEO of the company. And John said, we have 2 openings for sales managers in our company right now. We have an all Spanish AM and FM in San Antonio, Texas. And we have a rock and roll radio station in Orlando, Florida. And I said, this is awesome, John. Tell me about Orlando, right? Because there's no way that I am qualified to work at an all Spanish AM and FM. So anyway, we started talking, and more to his credit than mine, he said, you know what, I think you'd be really good at this at the Spanish stations. I think we need somebody who can kind of think outside of where we've been working with our advertisers and with the community, and how to really shape the operation. And I said, are you sure about this? Because I don't speak a word of Spanish. And he said, no, really, I think you'll be great, and you'll pick up what you need over time. And our GM doesn't speak Spanish anyway. So I said, okay, fine. So they send me there. And so now there's a group of Spanish language radio hosts. And I mean, 75, 80% of the workforce in that building is Latino, and they all speak Spanish very comfortably. And then you have the gringo GM and the gringo sales manager. And so it was an enormous risk on our part to participate in something like that. But it actually literally launched a 20-year segment of my career targeted towards Hispanic targeted media. And it was quite remarkable. I can't tell you how rewarding it was. And I was, I don't know what the word is. I was immediately adopted as an honorary Latino, and not, I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to say anymore, but everybody was so nice to me and so comfortable and so patient with me. And the first thing I did when I got there was I found one person in every building where I worked, where our communication was 100% en español, 100% in Spanish, so that I could learn the language as quickly as possible. And God bless them all for their patience and their understanding, and probably the headaches I caused them in trying to learn the language. But I did not take Spanish in high school. I did not do Rosetta Stone or Babbel or any of those things. I mean, I literally learned it in the building. And I was really, really lucky to work with a lot of terrific people that were comfortable working with me and trying to help me learn the language.
Wow. So in other words, a correct term would you were Hanai over there by.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. That's a great word. Yep, I was absolutely Hanai. And by the way, I found it delightful. And it also, I think, taught me a lot about how to behave as a human being. Because I feel the same way here to a large extent. I know that I am an outsider here, right? That I am not from here. I was not born here. I'm certainly, somebody who landed here. And I really try very hard not to be disrespectful of the culture and the Aina. And I mean, I've been so fortunate to meet so many really, really wonderful people that make me feel at home here in a way that, quite frankly, I wasn't sure they were going to. And one of the first things I was told when I came here was, it's going to take you a long time to meet people and for them to get to know you and trust you, because this is a very protective state. But once they do, then you're family. And I've felt that a lot since I've come here, and I don't credit myself for any of that. I really credit the graciousness of the people that I've met.
It's interesting because I think that even if it wasn't that you were Hanai here, just learning about that, it makes it easier for you to be Hanai to any culture, because you're already open-minded about the people and the places, even though they're different from what you were expecting or that you've been to before. There's a certain acceptance of other people and experiences. So that's really interesting to hear.
Thank you. That's kind of you to say. I truly believe that it is primarily the graciousness of others that allowed me to feel that way. And they were, all of them were terrific to me. And now, fast forward to today, I still dream in Spanish. I was truly immersed in that lifestyle and that culture to an extent where when you first start learning the language, you have to look people in the eye to stare at them so you understand what they're saying. And then as time goes on, you can start to catch things out of the corner of your ear, if that's the right way to put it, where you understand what they say, but you got to kind of turn over and look at them to make sure you're staying with it. And now I consider myself to be functionally bilingual. Even years removed from working in Spanish language radio, if one of my friends from Florida or Texas or Nevada or California had called me, and if they start the conversation in Spanish, I wouldn't hesitate to continue on without even blinking. And that's a credit to a lot of people who spent a lot of time helping me.
That's awesome. What resources for those that are watching this do you suggest for those who are interested in what you do?
So on the radio side of this, there's really I don't think there's a really good platform of resources. The Radio Advertising Bureau is obviously great. The HAB is great. AAF is great. There are a number of resources that I think are available to everybody globally in terms of broadcast or media as an industry. I think in terms of leadership, I've read just a zillion books on leadership that aren't necessarily all leadership books. And so I think that probably the best piece of advice I can give anybody that's interested in a career in management or in business of any kind is start reading things, anything you can get your hands on. And as friendly as I am with digital media, I still like to buy an actual physical book. And I schlep books with me on planes when I travel and try to get, anytime I'm on an airplane, I'm going to bring a book with me and I'm going to read it. And it's my way of trying to continue to expand what I've learned. And I can tell you, Michael T., who's on this call somewhere, Michael T. gave me a brilliant book on customer service called The Gold Standard that I found absolutely fascinating. And I try to steal as many ideas from all these books that I read as is humanly possible and share them with my staff. About 10 years ago, I started this practice, and I'm committed to it for the rest of my career, no matter how long I last in this industry. Is I read a ton of books and I talk about them with my staff, whether it's the department heads or the people that I work with as a group, or our sales department or our programming department or whatever. I'll talk with everybody about the book that I've just read. And if they show any interest at all in reading that book, I'll buy it for them.
Wow.
And my only rule is you have to read it, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards, because I want to get your perspective on the book that I just read. And so I've made a habit, and I've probably bought, given away, or loaned 1,000 books by now.
We're talking story with Joshua Mednick. We'll get back to him in just a moment. I want to pause for just a second just to give you a quick update here. Reminder, AAF Hawaiʻi's AdMania is back in person. Dave & Buster's, January 18th. Starts at 6 p.m., goes from 6:30 to 8:30. Need more information, visit aafhawaii.com. Time for rapid fire questions. These are short answer, and so I'm going to direct them to Joshua, and he'll give us the answer, and he'll give us a short why he picks that answer. Joshua, number one, music or podcast?
Oh, music.
Why?
Preferably live music.
Nice.
Love live music.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person. I'm in bed by 8.
Wow.
I go to the gym every morning, but it probably doesn't look like it on TV. But I go to the gym every morning at 5:30. So by 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, I'm ready for bed. Plus, by going to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, I get to hear the first couple of minutes of all of our morning shows. So I make sure we're on the air. They're not saying anything mean about me, and everything's okay.
Very good. I'm going to deviate from the rapid fire questions. Reason why you exercise?
Because I'm 100 years old and I don't want to die. No, really, it's just to stay in shape. It's stupid backstory, but worth probably mentioning. I've broken my back twice.
Oh.
Once parachuting, and once I was hit by a Jeep while riding my motorcycle. So this is more self-preservation than anything else. I go to the gym so I can stay in shape.
The way you phrase that, you were hit by your Jeep while you were riding your motorcycle.
Jeep. I was hit by a Jeep.
A Jeep, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Random guy in a Jeep ran into the back of my motorcycle and did me some harm.
Glad to know that you are taking care of your health. Favorite snack, please?
Wow. So I'll admit this publicly. There's a bakery in Southern California that I started going to when I was 9 years old. So that was about 72 years ago. And it's called Bee's Bakery, and they make a cookie there. It's something between a cookie and a cake. It's called a black and white. I think Michael T's had one. And because I try to bring them back whenever I travel to Southern California. And that is by far my all-time favorite thing. I will tell you this, and this is the truth, and it's not pandering to the audience. I probably eat poke 4 times a week since moving here. I am in love with poke.
There you go. Nice. So that takes care of favorite food then. Favorite snack. Well, food, poke. Do you have a favorite food, or is poke it?
Oh no, I'm very much a red meat guy. So I would like a very large steak, and I'm super happy. Steak and vegetables is like perfect for me. But I've eaten more fish in the last 2.5 years that I've lived here than I probably did in the 30 years prior. The fish here is amazing, and I can't get enough of it.
Favorite thing to do on the weekends?
I'm an inveterate golfer. You can see some of that stuff behind me. And I've been playing since I was 14 years old.
They just got done with the Century, the greatest golfers of our time, like right now. And then, of course, the Sony. Do you go to those, or do you watch those?
I've been fortunate to go to a bunch of them. I've been fortunate to play in a number of them as the Pro-Am. And what they do is meaningfully different than what I do.
I understand your sentiments exactly. What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends?
My wife and I play golf. I go with a group of guys on Saturday morning, and some money changes hands from time to time. And I go and play with my wife on Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday are on the golf course, which helps my mood Monday morning when I show up at the office.
I don't know if this has to do anything with the golf game. It doesn't necessarily have to. What is your secret superpower?
I'm not entirely sure that I have one, to be truthful. People have asked me, similar questions. I've never heard it asked quite that way. But I would tell you that if there's any secret superpower, it's that I am extremely interested in learning stuff. Like I'll read a book about anything. The last book I read was on brain chemistry. And how your brain processes things. It's called 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. And I find I run into these things that I think, oh, that sounds fascinating. And so I'll read it. I read an 800-page biography of Richard Nixon. And I'm not, by the way, it took me 3 tries to get through it, but I finally did. And it's just, I love to learn. So any chance I get to read something or learn about something, count me in.
If you weren't doing radio, what would you be doing?
Oh my gosh. I've been doing this for so long that I really have no idea what I'd be doing, the truth be told. I really love coaching and training people. And I think one of the most enjoyable things I do in this company is it used to be Fridays, it's been moved to Thursdays, but every Thursday morning, I do a training session with our entire crew statewide, and we do it on Zoom so that everybody can participate. And I love when I hear people parrot back things that they've been taught or things that they've learned, and they use them successfully to help their clients or do something in the community that's valuable. So probably I would be in some form of coaching or training, because I love the activity of coaching people, and I love to help people succeed.
Favorite place you've traveled to and why?
I've been all over Mexico. That was a lot of fun. I know you're going to London, and I was going to tell you that if you had time to go someplace fun, there's an experience in London at a place, if it still exists. When I was there, I was quite young, called Bunratty Castle. And they do an ancient medieval feast at Bunratty Castle, and kind of like what Excalibur did or does in Las Vegas with the jousting tournament and all of that. They do that whole experience there, and it is a ball. It's an absolute blast. And I think when you go to Las Vegas, you know it's a Disney-esque experience, like they're recreating it. When you do it in an ancient castle setting, it's off the charts cool. So I really enjoyed traveling to London, and I would have told you that my favorite travel experience was coming to Hawaii, but now I live here. So it kind of takes that out of the equation. But when my wife and I came here in 2017 for her to run the Honolulu Marathon, we fell in love with the place instantly. I mean, it's really hard not to love this place.
Hey, for those of you that are watching down in the chat, Joshua talked about a book, and Michael T actually put the book, the name of it, and the author down in the chat. So if you want to go look at that, check that out. We're coming up to the close of our session, but we want to take a look at the chat. So if you have any questions, you can throw them in there if you want to. And then moderators, if you have any questions that have come to you from different mediums, you can put it in there as well. My eyes are on it at this time. Do you have a favorite book on leadership or management style? Is that book on management style?
So the gold standard is a book on customer service, and it is brilliant. I mean, it is absolutely brilliant. And we've adopted several of their practices as part of our customer service experience when we talk to our clients and when we work with our advertisers. Probably my favorite book of all time is a book called Situational Leadership, and it's a book written by a guy named Ken Blanchard, who's really famous for writing the book, The 1 Minute Manager. And I'll give you an example of his kind of the model of what situational leadership is, because I think it has application both in the business world and in your personal life. And the idea behind this is Billy, if I asked you to make me a peanut butter sandwich, I said, hey, can you do me a favor? I need you to make me a peanut butter sandwich. So now I'm talking to one of my employees, right? Make me a peanut butter sandwich. So you bring me back a peanut butter sandwich with guava jelly on wheat bread. And I go, Billy, that is not what I wanted. I wanted a peanut butter sandwich with grape jelly on white bread cut diagonally. So you walk out of my office and you think I am a jackass because you gave me a peanut butter sandwich, right? But it wasn't what I wanted. And we as managers tend to believe that people understand what we're asking for implicitly, and we don't. And we don't alter our management style to accommodate people's knowledge of the project. So here's how this is supposed to work. I'm supposed to say, hey, Billy, can you do me a favor? I really need a peanut butter sandwich. Would you make it with white bread and grape jelly? And would you please cut it diagonal? Now, you bring me a peanut butter sandwich on white bread with grape jelly cut diagonally, and you set it on my desk. And I go, oh my God, Billy, you are the best employee we have. That is a perfect peanut butter sandwich. Thank you so much. Now you walk out of my office thinking I am the greatest boss ever. You're actually at home talking to your wife going, my boss loves me. I mean, this is amazing. All I did was bring him a peanut butter sandwich, by the way, it was so simple to make. And I am on my way to the top of this company. My boss loves me, right? So the second time I ask you to make a peanut butter sandwich, I say, hey, Billy, can you do me a favor? Would you make me a peanut butter sandwich same as last time with the grape jelly and the white bread cut diagonally? So you do it. And you bring it back to me and I go, my God, Billy, you are the model of consistency as an employee. I'm so proud to work with you. The third time I ask you to make me a peanut butter sandwich, I'm going to say, hey, Billy, would you make me a peanut butter sandwich? Same as last time, with no further instructions, because now I have to believe you know the drill. And so you're going to bring back the peanut butter sandwich, the grape jelly, and the white cut diagonal, right? And I'm going to go, Billy, rock star, man, you're doing great. I'm going to put you in for a raise. The fourth time I ask you to make me a peanut butter sandwich, I'm going to say, hey, Billy, can you make me a peanut butter sandwich? And you'll know exactly what to do. And you won't feel micromanaged. You won't feel like I'm looking over your shoulder. You won't feel like I'm talking to you like an idiot. I mean, all right. And that's the basics of it. The flip side to that, which is really well illustrated in the book is if I'm looking for your creativity as an employee, Billy, I'm going to say, hey, Billy, make me a peanut butter sandwich. Now, by the way, if that comes back as peanut butter and liverwurst with onions, I have to eat it because I asked for your creativity. I did not give you the parameters in which to work. So I'm counting on you to come up with something brilliant on your own. And I'm using you as a conduit for greater growth in my company because I want something that's going to be thought of outside the box. And I found that book absolutely fascinating. And I try very hard, and Michael T. might tell you only occasionally successfully, try to mimic that process when I work with people.
That is amazing. I have written the name of that book down. I am going to look for it. Moderators, let me know if you've got any other questions. And I do have one from that I have. You have experienced over in the continental United States working there. For those that are watching here that have never really left Hawaii, do you recommend that they go out and experience, and suggestions that you might have for them if they decide to do that?
So the short answer is don't ever leave this place. It's awesome. The truth is, it actually, I think that a sizable portion of what you bring to a company is your prior experience. So I think that if you live in an area for your entire career, it can create a sense of myopia, kind of a tunnel vision of what you know and what you've experienced. And so probably, like when I first got here, I think a number of the things that I said, people probably looked at me like I was from Mars because they had never seen or heard those things before. And it was, I don't know, challenging for both of us to try and find a common ground because I had seen and done things in places that they had not been. And obviously I had never been here. So I was an outsider coming to this activity, or coming to this location in the activities that I was being asked to do. So at the end of the day, I would suggest that any opportunity to create experiences for yourself is probably valuable. And any place you can go to do that is, I think, worthwhile. Did that answer the question? The answer is yes, go, have fun, and learn stuff, and then come back and bring it back here with you. The more diverse our experiences are, I think the better we all perform. You appear to be muted. Billy? Billy, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Joshua Mednick is the Chief Revenue Officer for Pacific Media Group. I'm going to take one last look at the. We do have one more question for you. When adapting to a new workplace culture, what is the secret to success?
You won't believe this from as much as I've talked these last 45 minutes, but the true answer is shut up and listen. Really, I spend as much time as I can listening to the people that I work with as anything, because I think you can't walk in with only your perspective and expect a group of people to want to work with you. So any place you go, and I've been a victim of this a number of times in my career, where you get a new management group or new ownership comes in and they fire everybody because they want their people in the building. And I've tried to be exactly the opposite. I try to find a way to incorporate everybody that's in the building. You're here for a reason. And maybe I was brought in to do nothing more than to get the best out of you as opposed to get rid of you. And so I try really hard to just shut up and listen to everybody, because in a lot of cases, they're more than capable of doing the job that they were hired to do. They just might not have had the right person in place helping them.
Final item for you, not necessarily a question, but am looking for commentary. What are you hoping for 2023? Peace on earth. That kind of stuff. I'll speak kind of selfishly about us and our company, and then our islands as a whole. Stability. The pandemic was an interesting experience for me, and I don't mean that in a callous way. I think that I was afforded a certain amount of grace by the people that
I came to work with here, because we were all caught in this kind of shared experience, and it was not a good experience. So I think everybody was more patient with each other and more loving and caring than they probably would have been with a Holly from the mainland showing up in their building. But I look at how disruptive that's been to everybody. The businesses that have closed, the people that have lost their jobs, the people that have had to move away, the cost of everything going crazy. So if there was one thing that I would pray for everybody in 2023, it's a little bit of stability, and that things might be actually calming down and getting back to what one would refer to as normal.
Joshua Mednick is on LinkedIn. You can find him there. And if you need more information about Pacific Media Group, the entity that he works for, how do they get a hold of you, and where do they find that web address? So
pmghawaii.com is the actual web address for our company. And you can just Google Pacific Media Group and it'll take you right to the link. And anybody, my LinkedIn is public, and anybody can reach out to me anytime. And I'm happy to connect with anyone and everyone, and really enjoyed this, Billy. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the AAF for sitting and listening to me for the last 45 minutes.
Thank you very much, sir, and happy 2023. Happy New Year to you. Once again, Joshua Mednick is the Chief Revenue Officer for Pacific Media Group, joining us here on the show. Just a reminder, AAF Hawaii's Two Scoops, we hear for you each month. And just a reminder, coming up, AAF Hawaii's Ad Mania is back in person Wednesday, January 18th. Dave & Buster's starts at 6. Event time is from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Bring your friends, co-workers, or fellow club members. On behalf of our administrator, Ryan, Jody, the rest of the crew, thank you very much for watching. Malama pono, aloha a hui ho.
Aloha.